This is John Bailey, the epic voice of Honest Trailers, and you're listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. It's a Fangirls podcast with five-ish people. The tangents and squee will continue. Squee.
The tangents and squee continue all the way to episode 107 of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So, you've got the devil inside you too. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So glad you could join us. Let's start off like we do every week. We'll go on the virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Brittany in Belvedere. This is Sally from Wisconsin.
This is Mitch in Kitchener, Ontario.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello, everyone. Like our lack of Chrissy threw people off. Like, wait, is it my turn? Wait. It's okay. Chrissy is off doing family stuff with family. But that is all right. We shall... I couldn't... Well, I couldn't remember. I think it was her nephew. I think is what she said. Nephew, something with her nephew getting like blessed or baptized or something.
That was baptized today. So
okay,
they're doing something.
I thought nephew, and then I was like, wait, is it nephew? Because then I didn't want to be wrong, so I just said family instead. I figured that was a broad enough cloth that would cover, whatever type of family member they are. So, I second guessed myself there. I'm tired, okay? Leave me alone. Oh, I have a good reason to be tired that we will get to, though. But first... Yes. But first, we need to get to news, which we actually have some news this week. Yay! So, first bit of news is we have a start date for the Doctor Who spin-off class. Unfortunately, this start date only counts for those in the UK. So, class will start airing on BBC Three on October 22nd. The first two episodes will actually go online. Apparently, they've given more details. Apparently, it's not necessarily going to be a whole series. It's a mini-series. It's an 8-part series. So, yeah. And the BBC has warned that class is not suitable viewing for younger audiences. So even though it's set in a school,
Torchwood, the high school years,
yeah, kind of apparently. It's like it's not Doctor Who. It's probably not going to be quite Torchwood, considering it does involve kids,
right?
Like teenagers. They are underage. So it's going to be, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be like Buffy the Vampire, maybe, level. It could be kind of violent, but not uber violent, maybe? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But we're going to have to wait even longer because it's not going to start in the U.S. until later date yet to be announced. So we're still waiting. So,
I think I saw someone spring of 2017. But that didn't say anything more than that.
Yeah, so this just in, Doctor Who's still not on, and neither is Class, apparently. But it has been confirmed Peter Capaldi's Doctor will be making an appearance in the first episode.
And I like the title of the first episode.
Yeah, for tonight we might die.
That doesn't sound ominous at all.
No, not at all. That and the coach with the dragon tattoo. Of course, we know from Doctor Who that, episode titles sometimes can be like the Sontaran stratagem. And other times it's not so. Before the flood.
The Doctor's wife.
The Doctor's wife. The Doctor's daughter. Although actually that did end up being quite literal, but still. So, interpret those how you will until we actually get to see it. So, I guess, not that we condone using, less than honorable ways of accessing television, but the internet is available to you. So I guess if you can't wait, odds are you'll be able to find it once it starts airing in the UK. Not saying we suggest you do that. I'm just saying the internet is at your disposal.
It's an option.
It's an option if you want to go that route. We'll leave it at that. So, moving on to less nefarious ways of watching your television shows. The CW has announced that their updated app will be offering pretty much all of their shows for free. So, Flash, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, all those shows we love will be available through their app, which the app can be used on Chromecast, Apple TV, Xbox, Amazon Fire, that sort of thing. They are removing their shows from Hulu, and will be, obviously, they're already available on Netflix, but they have said that the seasons will be available on Netflix just a few days after the season ends. So, instead of waiting, I think Supergirl just went up on Netflix in the last month or so, and the season ended several months ago. So,
and Arrow and Flash come next month. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right when the shows are beginning.
Yeah, it's
again.
I'm burning my way through Arrow and Flash, and I'm like, wait, there's no more on the Netflix. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. Something. Now I have this option, apparently. The CW app. Not that I need another app on any of my devices whatsoever.
Right.
I do not need any more apps. But I may have to make an exception. Other networks need to take note of the CW here. What they're doing. So, this is the way you win fans and loyal watchers. Just saying. CBS. Star Trek. Anyway, sorry about that. Tickle in my throat. Speaking of Netflix, last but not least, we now have a premiere date for season 2 of Fuller House. It is actually going to drop the day after my wedding anniversary, December 9th. Oh, Candace Cameron Brewer said on The View that the season this year is going to be very holiday themed, covering Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's Eve, and of course lots and lots of family. And I'm sure laughs galore because it's Fuller House. So yeah, that's it for. Nevertheless, so our shows are back, some of them, and some are getting ready to come back. So we're busy flipping channels and checking Excel spreadsheets. We all need time. We all need time turners to be able to watch everything. So yeah, TV, it's fun. Not that we'd have it any other way. Yeah, so. One moment. Pardon me. Okay. Moving on to the reason I'm so tired. I have a real good reason. So,
yes, you do.
Oh my God. I'm so tired. At the same time, I'm still when I think about it, I'm like, oh my God! I can't believe that happened.
You're still not in a puddle.
Yeah. I don't know how we made it home last night. I was the one that drove. But we did. We made it there in one piece. Although I almost caused an accident on the way there. We got into Cincinnati proper and was getting off the highway, and there was a billboard that had Stanley on it, and I'm like, and then we saw the convention center, and I'm like, he's in there, and I took a turn almost not properly. So,
Oopsies.
so I was a little excited just leading into it, but thankfully we got there in one piece. And on time, too, actually, which is a miracle in itself, considering all the construction that's going on everywhere. Indiana has like 3 seasons. Indiana does have 4 seasons. We have football, basketball, racing, and construction. Those are our 4 seasons. Except construction season lasts like all year long, so it's always construction season. It seems like there's a lot of construction.
Yeah, up here we have winter and construction. Basically.
So, anywho, so Chauncey and I, we went to Cincinnati Comic Expo yesterday. It was our first time at this particular convention. It was fairly easy for us to get to. From where we are is a straight shot on 74 right into Cincinnati. And where it lets off the highway, it dumps right at their convention center, the Duke Energy Convention Center. So that was nice. We'd been in the car, and for us, like, most of the drive is just getting out of Indiana, getting into Ohio. Once you cross the Ohio border, you're like right there, which is nice. So I will give them that A+ for location, I guess. Not that they have any control over that compared to where I live, but still, they get a star in my book for that. And we found parking easily enough. There's a parking garage right across the street. So we were able to park and just literally take a crosswalk right to the convention center. So that was good too. We got there right at 10 o'clock, which is when the convention started for the day. So unfortunately and of course it's Saturday, which Saturdays are always the busiest day for a con, no matter which way you slice it. I'd be interested to see how crowded it is on a Saturday if we go again in the future and Stan Lee is not there, and see how less crowded it is. Because I just wonder if him being there just made it more crowded. But like I said, I've never been to this con before, so I have no comparison. I guess I could ask the people who have been before. So we did end up having to wait to pick up our wristband. It wasn't too bad. I think we made it, 20 minutes, maybe 20, 30 minutes. So it was about 10:30 by the time we got down to the actual show floor. So they did the badge and wristband pickup up on the 2nd floor, which was kind of nice. The convention center is actually kind of tiny compared to Indianapolis. That's not a fair comparison, though. We're crazy about our convention center here. So we got our wristbands, and then we went down to the show floor, and we didn't get a program for whatever. I don't know if they just went through them really quickly or what, but we didn't get a program. So like I looked at the map online, so I kind of knew where stuff was, but not really. So of course, we walk on the show floor. It's like, so we made our way through the crowds to the back, and it was about 10:30, and we had our photo with Stan Lee at 11:45, and the instructions said we couldn't get in line no sooner than 15 minutes beforehand. So 11:30 is as soon as we could have gotten in line. So we're like, okay, we've got an hour. Let's see what we can do in about an hour. So we're walking towards the back where all the celebrities were. They had all the celebrities along the wall, kind of like Lexington did, where the vendors were in the middle, the celebrities were on the outside wall. But we happened across this vendor who had this, it looked like a giant tent, but it was a circle. And what it was is they do 360-degree pictures. So it's kind of like the rig that they used in The Matrix, to do the where they can go around, like Neo when he's dodging the bullets and all that in the Matrix. They call it bullet time. But they had a rig set up so people could go in and they would take. It was just cameras going all around in a circle, and they stood on this spot, and they would take your picture in 360 degrees. So, and it was free for them to do the photo, and then if you just wanted to, they had stuff for you to buy. If you wanted a memento, I guess, of it. So we ended up buying they'd take your pictures and print them out in order and then staple them together in a really nice like photo paper, and it's like a little flip book. So then you can see it circle around you in the inside the thing. It's very cool. I have it here in front of me, and it's me. I was dressed as Jessica Jones yesterday, so I'm standing there looking like I'm ready to kick some butt, and it's very cool. But Chauncey got talking to the guys running the thing, and he mentioned that he does stuff in virtual reality and all that, and the guy actually offered to send the high-res files to Chauncey so that he could put them into like one of the VR headsets. So he's gonna hopefully they'll send that to him, and then Chauncey, and then if he really wanted to, we could do a 3D printout of me, which I told him I don't know if I necessarily want a 3D printout of myself. But it's a cool idea in concept, I guess.
I've seen those 3D printing booths at conventions, but I've never actually checked them out.
Yeah. I mean, the 3D printing itself
there's
is...
a part of me that's like, but the whole thing of I don't know how much it's going to cost has always prevented me from checking it out too closely.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that depends on what they're using, the material. A lot of the 3D printers, they just use plastic. So it's fairly inexpensive for you to do something small. I mean, if you want to do something large, it's obviously going to cost more. But nowadays they're different.
Yeah, the ones that I've seen have like action figure size.
Yeah. There are companies these days that can do 3D printing, and like they can do it in wood. They can do it in like precious metals like silver and gold and like platinum, and those get really, really expensive. But I mean, if you want something that's one of a kind,
one step closer to replicators, I guess.
Yep. We're working towards those Star Trek replicators. But yeah, it's really cool. I have to figure out I have to have like Chauncey either. I'll film Chauncey flipping the flip book, or have him film me flipping through it, because I need two hands to do it, so I can't film myself to show it off to like Instagram or something. But yeah, I mean it's cool. It's cool. And then they give me a little sheet that just shows like the four front, back, and then right and left side, like the primaries. Little printout. And then they went ahead and sent him the digital like movie file, but it's lower resolution, so it's not something you really use in like a virtual reality headset. But they said if he emails them that they'll send the high resolution files to him so Chauncey can play with them. So. I'll just let Chauncey do his thing with these. The virtual reality guy. So, but that's like my one souvenir from the con, actually, and Chauncey bought it for me, so I didn't buy any souvenirs. I didn't buy anything on top of what I was already planning on buying. So, yay. So we did that, and then we decided to go ahead and hop in line for John Barrowman at his table. But his line ended up moving so slow. They had the lines, in front of the tables in front of their booths, and of course, they snake. And then if the line went out of, the proper line, They moved the line to an overflow area. And what they would do, so people knew that was the end of the line, is they had a sign. It was just an inexpensive sign made of like a cardboard tube and some poster board, and they had one for each of the lines, and there was one that said, this is the end of the line for John Barrowman. But instead of having one of like the con people stand there and hold the sign, they would just give it to whoever is at the end of the line. So when we went over there, we were the last people in line, so I got to hold the sign that said, and this is the end of the line for John Barrowman. until someone got in behind us, and then we got to give them the sign. But for a while there, I'm like, I got the sign for John Barrowman. Chauncey took a picture of me with it. I don't think he's posted anything on Facebook yet. So that was kind of fun. But the line was moving so slow, which was not anyone's fault. Technically it's John's fault because he's so friendly. Unlike like Chrissy described, with Stephen and Mel, where it was like, autograph, move, autograph next. John was taking the time to talk to people and that sort of thing. So it made the line move slower, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to complain because I would rather have people have a pleasant experience and have to wait in line longer, than just get, move through like at the BMV or something. But it got to the point where it was getting close to our time for the Stan Lee photo, so we had to jump ship, and go to it instead. But that was fine. So we went over to the photo area, and unfortunately Stan was backed up. His photo were backed up. We got over there at 11:30, and they said that the people with 11:15 slots were just now getting up to like the main part, the front part of the line. And unfortunately, where they were doing the line for the photo ops was in the same area where there was one of the food vendors. So you have people like, standing in line trying to get like their pizza and sit at the tables and eat, their food court convention center food. And then you've got all of us crazy people trying to get some semblance of a line for the photo ops. Like I said, their convention center is a bit on the small side, so I'm sure they were just trying to make it work with the space they had and not drive the fire marshal nuts in the process. But it was a little confusing trying to figure out, where exactly we're supposed to be. But I mean, for the most part, there were a few people that were a bit mad that, it was taking so long and they were so behind schedule. But for the most part, most people are like, we'll just stand here and eventually we'll get up to the front and it'll be our turn. And that's the way it went. And I think everyone was really so excited to get their photo with Stan Lee, they didn't care. So I know I was that way. I'm like, you want me to stand next to this trash can? Okay, fine. I don't care. Stan Lee. So I think we were in line from the time we got in line to got our photo, got out and, got our print and everything and exited. It was an hour, so it wasn't terrible. Yeah. I would say we talked with people in line. We ended up being, once we got into the curtained area, right outside of the other curtained area where they were doing the photos, we ended up in line near three guys that we'd actually met earlier out on the floor. When we were parking, we drove by these guys. One of them was dressed as Daredevil, one was dressed as Nick Fury, and the other's dressed as Ant-Man. I was like, oh, cool, I hope we find them later so I can get a picture with them. And then we did end up coming across them on the show floor when we first got in there. So we got a picture with them, Defenders, Marvel Defenders. It's like, me and Daredevil, and then Nick Fury and Ant-Man. They're like, we're going to cross over eventually, so this photo still works. Yeah. So it's all good. But they ended up being near us in line for the Stan Lee photo, so we spent most of the time talking, Marvel and Stan's cameos and what we expect from Luke Cage, which is getting ready to drop on Netflix, and the upcoming Marvel movies and all that. They were trying to decide what they wanted to do as a pose, if they wanted to try to do anything funny or anything. And actually I ended up stumbling across one of the guys as the guy dressed as Daredevil told me his Instagram handle, and from his I found the other two guys, and the guy cosplaying as Ant-Man ended up posting their photo with Stan, and he said in his caption on Instagram that Stan complimented their cosplays. So that was pretty cool. And they were really good cosplays too, so poor guys, they were all sweating, especially the one dressed as Daredevil. He's like, so many layers. Things you do for cosplay and Stan Lee, I guess. Yeah. But we got up there. We dropped they had a table for people to put their bags on if you didn't want to have your stuff with you in the photo and all that. And they were very, very, very firm on there's always the same rules for every pro photo op for most conventions. No asking for autographs, no cameras, no cell phones, that sort of thing. You go in, have the photo, and that's it. With Stan, they were like, no fist bumps, no shaking his hand, no that sort of thing. He is 94. And con crud is a thing. I think they were very concerned about making sure no one is the person that gives Stan Lee con crud. So I guess. But we got, it was our turn. We dropped our bags off, walked in, turned the corner. We had like two families in front of us, but we could see him, and we're like, oh my God, it's Stan Lee. And the guy doing the photos was very like military precision. We could hear him yelling, but we couldn't make out what he was saying until we got closer, and I realized he was saying, ready, thank you, next. But he was saying it very loudly and just trying to make sure that the line moved, I guess, as precision based as possible. But Chauncey, if you've seen our photo on Instagram and all that, Chauncey brought a couple of action figures of characters that Stan Lee actually helped create, and are two of Chauncey's favorites. He had a Man-Thing and Wolverine, which are Chauncey's two favorite Marvel characters ever. So he had those, and he's holding him in the photo. And I asked Stan if he would do the Spider-Man, the web sling hand thing. The person standing there saying, okay, next people go up, get on each side of the chair, stand in the chair. And they're like, well, it's like, I want him to do the Spider-Man thing. She's like, ask him. I'm like, I get to ask him? Okay. So I was like, hey, Stan, will you do the Spider-Man thing, for, the Spider-Man thwop for the photo? He's like, absolutely, I will. And so he did. And then he took the photo, and then we were like, thank you. And that was it. So, I got to talk to Stan Lee for like 2 whole seconds. Meanwhile, Chauncey, was a man-child, and he will absolutely cop to that too. He's like, I was being such a man-child. I'm like, that's okay, honey, that's fine. So, but it's really cool though, because you got your photo right there. They printed them out, like right there. There was no waiting. So nice. They printed it out, and he even had a little barcode on it, on the edge of it. You know, you can cut that bit off to put it in a frame. But you would get your photo, your ticket that shows you already paid for the photo. They scanned it right before you went and had your photo taken. You get your photo on the photo and your ticket again, and that would prove that you picked up your photo. So that I guess they could keep track of, you know, who actually showed up and who actually picked up their stuff. I guess so somebody can't come back later and go, I didn't get my photo. And I'm like, well, our records say somebody did. So sorry, I guess. I don't know. So that was kind of cool. And it was cool to have get the photo right away too, because then we could stare at it and go, this is the best thing ever. Which we pretty much did. It was like, we were hot, we were thirsty, we were hungry, but we were just looking at it like, oh my god, this is gonna go on my Facebook profile and never change. And it probably won't, actually. It's probably gonna be on my Facebook profile for forever and ever and ever. So we're like, oh my, Stanley! But because Stanley was running so late, we kind of had to hurry back upstairs, and we caught the very end of Billy D. Williams, his panel. Which he kind of reminds me of my dad. If you have like a conversation, I don't know if this is a generational thing or what, but like if you have a conversation with my dad and you ask him a question, he's one of those people that will give you like a one-word answer. He'll be like, yeah, I guess so. Or it was fun. And he wouldn't elaborate any. And Billy D. Williams was the same way. And I don't know if that's just because, you know, he's heard the same questions just over and over again, or if that's just the way he is. I don't know. By the time we got there, there was, I don't know, like 15 minutes left. So somebody asked him if he hadn't become an actor, what else he might have done, and he said Playboy. I think it wasn't so much be in Playboy, but probably hang out with like Hugh Hefner and the Playmates. I think is what he was insinuating. And then they got to the last question, and you know when you go to these panels, like whoever's the last person, they're like, okay, last question, it's got to be a good one, and you're always like, I don't know about everyone else, but I'm always like, oh, please ask, you know, a decent question, because if your question isn't really good, that would really suck that that's the last question to get asked. But the last person to ask the question, actually they asked him how he felt about being in the Mustache Hall of Fame. Which he said was he was quite proud of it because he had a good mustache back in the day. So that was funny. I'm sad we missed most of it. I'm sure it's up online somewhere, or will be up online somewhere, so we'll have to find it and watch what we missed. And then we went and got something to eat. We brought food and stuff with us, which was nice because convention center food. And then actually Chauncey and I split ways. I thought pretty much we'd be, you know, together the entire time, but he was like, I want to go, you know, watch panels and all that. And I wanted to go attempt number 2 for John Barrowman's autograph. So we parted ways. So he went and he went back to the panel room, and I don't know exactly what he watched at the time. I know he caught some of the Gotham panel with the kid that plays Bruce Wayne on Gotham. So but Chauncey doesn't watch Gotham, so he's like we were talking about Batman. I'm like, yeah, I know, I don't watch it either. No, it was funny. Was it the first time I went and got online for John? I think it was the first time or maybe it was the second time, where I was walking by and I can't think of his last name, Teddy from The Flash, like came out to his table and everyone cheered. And I'm like, yay! I was like, I haven't gotten that far in The Flash yet. I haven't seen you on screen yet, but yay, you're here. But then when I get to that point in The Flash where he shows up for the first time, I can be like, hey, I saw you off in the distance. You were near John Barrowman at that convention. So the CW, I'm sure, was very happy with the guest list. You know, John Barrowman and the guy from The Flash, and yeah, a lot of DC stuff going on at the convention. DC and Star Wars, and then you got Stanley. So it was an interesting guest combination. So I got in line for John again. I didn't get to hold the sign again, unfortunately. But I got to talking to people in line, so that really helped pass the time. I was in the overflow again, starting out. And then we got moved to the main line. And we got maybe like halfway through the main line, and John started throwing packages of Tim Tams at us. If you pay attention to him as an Instagram, at some point he discovered Tim Tams and has become obsessed with them. So he wants people to bring them to him at conventions. And he's posted pictures where he's had stacks of Tim Tams that are like taller than he is. So he'd gotten some at this convention, but he'd got a couple packages of the same flavor. So I think he didn't necessarily want to take a bunch of duplicates home. So he threw one into the audience, and we're like, oh, he's throwing food. Okay. And then he decided to throw another one. And the guy who is not literally right in front of me in line, but like it was like me and then like the bar thing and then him, he caught it. He just reached up at like, he was like on his phone, and John throws the package and he just puts his hand up and just like snags it. I'm like, you're one of those people at a baseball game that catches a foul ball like super easily. He laughed at that. But he ended up cracking open the package and passing it down the line, so I actually got a Tim Tam from John Barrowman.
Nice.
So that was kind of fun. There were some people in the line, they're like, what are these? I'm like, they're cookies, and they're awesome. Be better if you had like a glass of milk to go with it or some coffee. But, you know, it's a Tim Tam from John Barrowman. I'm not going to complain. So I took a picture of the package after it was pretty much empty. So I had like Tim Tams, I got one from John. Line kept moving, got up. They asked if I wanted my autograph personalized. I said yes. So, like, how do you spell your name? They write it on a Post-it note, give it to me, and like, here you go. So I get up, I pay my money. John had copies of the Arrow comic he wrote for DC, which he was selling those, and he's like, buy my comic, I don't want to take them home. It's like, please buy my comic, I do not want to take these home. So some people were buying those, and somebody bought one. He was like very happy, like, thank you for buying my comic. So it got to my turn, and I had my poster, which I think I posted pictures of it on my own personal Instagram. It's the TARDIS door, the police box open for the sign that's on the door for the telephone. So because there's a lot of light, like open white space for people to sign it and all that. So I've been having Doctor Who, stars sign it. So I got it up there, and John signed it, and I asked him if Scott's doing better. Apparently his husband had to have surgery unexpectedly. He actually had a charity event he was supposed to go to last weekend and had to pull out of that last minute because of Scott. Scott's surgery. So I was half expecting him to potentially pull out of this weekend if Scott wasn't feeling better. But I guess he is, so he felt comfortable enough to leave Scott and come to Cincinnati. So I asked him if Scott was feeling better. He said yes. I said that's good. I've been in that position, except I was the spouse who had to have the unexpected surgery. He said, yeah, so he's at this point, he's just trying to get the drugs out of his system. I said, well, that's good. He's feeling better. And we took selfies. So he was selling selling selfies, he was selling autographs and then selfies at his table too. And I wasn't planning on it. But I was watching so many other people do it, and it wasn't like some of the other celebrities they'll sell like photos at their table where it's like you take the one photo and that's it. No, John takes your phone from you and takes like 4 or 5 selfies on your phone for you. And he'll take like a couple normal, like smiling, and then he's like, okay, do an ugly one. And then you're supposed to make, like a silly face. For the last one. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pay for the selfie. Like, I get to have John take my phone from me, and I got like 4 photos out of it. So we got 3 normal ones and then the funny one. Actually, the ugly one is now the wallpaper on my phone, on my lock screen. So every time I pick up my phone, I'm like, it's me and John Barrowman with our mouth, our tongues sticking out, making a ugly face. And then I gave John one of the flyer pamphlet things from Who North America, because last time I was there and I told him I was going to this con and John was there and like, tell him about us. I'm like, okay, like unofficial Who North America ambassador that I am. So I gave one of the things to John. I said, it's one of the largest, if not the only, Doctor Who dedicated store and museum in the United States. Info's on there. If you find yourself in Indiana, let them know you're welcome at the shop anytime, which is totally true. Like, if they'd be like, John Barrowman wants to come to the store. Okay, we'll go unlock it. Turn the lights on. They would so do that. So he was like, oh, cool. And then he said, let them know to let the BBC know that there is a demand for more Captain Jack and Torchwood merchandise, apparently along with the other supposed drama that is going on with John trying to get Torchwood back on TV. He's also finding pushback from folks at the BBC who he did not name any names, at least while I was in line, but he's insinuating things, I guess, which we won't get into here because it's all just speculation and rumor, really. But he even if he can't get Torchwood back on the air, he would like to see more Captain Jack merchandise and Torchwood merchandise. And I guess the BBC's not even having that. So he's like, speak. He wants, if you want Captain Jack Harkness merchandise and Torchwood merchandise, obviously the Big Finish audios are their own thing. But if you want more Torchwood merchandise, related merchandise, speak with, I guess, what abilities you have, the social medias and that sort of thing.
The BBC is worried about the CW. I think the CW would bend over backwards just to let John do, for the BBC. So it's not like there's going to be any big problem, because I think they're fans too of the Doctor Who and that too. So it's just like, hey, we'll make it work. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what the issue is, and I don't think we'll ever really know, because it's all stuff that goes on behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. But I get, if any of our listeners are just really hankering for, more Torchwood, say something, tweet, write the BBC, that sort of thing, and let it be heard. So
take that how you will. So John's very, very like passionate about the shows he's been on in general, and I don't think he wants to see characters that he helped bring to life like fade off into the sunset, I guess. But anyway, so that was my experience with meeting John Barrowman. So the man's adorable. He's hilarious. I was telling people when we were in line, fans, and kind of looking at him, and he's just he's not dressed up or anything, jeans and t-shirt, tennis shoes, and that sort of thing. I'm like, you know what? John's not my type, but he's even more good looking in person. He's a very nice looking man. So I said that, and then I was like, well, come to think of it, I'm not his type either. So like, yeah, you're right. But we could be appreciative of the good-looking specimen that is John Barrowman. He's got a very nice rear end too. Scott's a very lucky man.
Yes.
Gets to live with that. I'm sure running around as Malcolm Merlin is not hurt his physique any.
No.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I missed John's panel. His panel was the one I really wanted to catch, and I got done with John's. I got John's autograph, and they actually made an announcement while I was waiting in line. They're like, "Don't forget at 4:00 panel, up in room blah blah blah, panel with John Barrowman." And John looked up at the ceiling like, "Did he just say my name?" Like, yes, John, that's your reminder. You have a panel at 4:00. But I got done with getting John's autograph, and Chauncey was up in the panel room, and Ray Park's panel had just started not long before that, so I hurried on up there, and Chauncey had saved me a seat and all that. So Ray Park, fun panel. He's very enthusiastic about Star Wars, and somebody asked if it's possible that somehow Darth Maul managed to survive his doom from the prequels. Would he come back for some more Star Wars movies? He's like, absolutely. He was talking about how he auditioned for Star Wars and got the part, but he wasn't allowed to tell anyone. And at the time he was teaching like martial arts to little kids. So he got to work, and after he auditioned, and then he got the phone call saying he got the part, and he's like on his way to work to like teach a class, and he got to work, and he was just running off the high. So he was like, all of his moves were just like awesome and precision and like perfect. And he's like, it's like, I need this kind of influence like all the time. And then as they went to do the movie, and word got out that he was going to be playing this villain, and I guess there was concern that he would, I don't know if it was George Lucas or if someone else. I think it may have been the person that came up with like the concept art and the design for Darth Maul. Told him like, you're gonna scare little kids. And Ray was all like, but I work with little kids. He's like, I don't want to scare my students. So if they would ask him, like, before the movie came out, like, are you going to be scary? And he'd be like, no, I'm not going to be scary. Don't worry, I'm not going to scare you. And then one of the people asked, who was in line to ask questions, she said, yeah, the Phantom Menace came out when I was in kindergarten, and you did scare me. I'm sorry. So yeah, he did end up scaring little children, whether he meant to or not. But he said that, you know, it was really cool to, you know, do the fight scenes. He said at one point, because Ray Park his thing is wushu. It's a type of martial arts, and the and it's actually what like the lightsaber battles are based on. At least with the newer movies, it's a form of fighting, both with and without weapons. But I guess in wushu, a lot of it is being very low to the ground, to help with like your center of gravity and all that. So he would be like rehearsing or whatever the big fight scene with Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson and all that, and he would get low. He'd like do a move and get really low to the ground. And Liam Neeson is quite a bit taller than Ray Park, and then Ray's getting like low to the ground, so he's even shorter. And Liam would be like, Ray, you've got to up a little because you're like down here, and Liam's like, you can't see me, but Liam would be like, I'm towering over you, like, you know, beating the ground. Like, this doesn't look very good. You need to be up higher to my level. But he you know, he said filming that big fight scene with, you know, with Liam and Ewan was quite fun, and both of them were just, you know, really enjoyed, you know, learning the choreography and all that. You know, yeah, Star Wars is his thing. He's been in other movies too. There are several people that asked him about. He was in the G.I. Joe movies, as well. I think he was in one of the X-Men movies too. So, and I guess at one point he really wanted to, he wanted to be Wolverine. Didn't quite happen for him. But he ended up with another part instead. But you know, these days, you know, he says that, you know, he's doing his thing. You know, he still teaches. Obviously, he does, you know, cons and all that, and at some of the conventions, he actually does like workshops for, you know, kids and all that. You know, he said, you know, I'm keeping myself in fighting form. So, you know, if Star Wars calls or if they want to make another G.I. Joe, he's ready. So he is ready to go for either of those franchises, if they come a calling. So that was kind of cool. He was very enthusiastic. He just, you know, he ended up talking most of the panel, so they didn't have a lot of time for questions. Every person that came up, he's like, "I'm so sorry I talked so much." But it was kind of cool. And then John's panel was right after Ray's, and I guess between Ray's and the Gotham one before, Chauncey was in there, and when the Gotham one let out, Chauncey just stayed in the room, and that was fine. They didn't make him leave, but I guess, you know, John is way more popular, so unless you were VIP, you had to clear the room. And there was already a line for John's panel when I went up there for the Ray Park panel. So by the time we got kicked out of the room, the line was just so long. It was like, yeah, odds are we're not going to get a seat for this.
Too bad they should have had like an overflow room where you guys could have heard them.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is like they had like they had like smaller panel rooms where they were doing like, you know, cosplay panels and like nerd speed dating and that sort of thing. The celebrity panels, they were using the one room, and it was one of those rooms that's got like the, you know, the dividing walls that you can open up. So it was actually like 4 rooms that they had opened up. So it was a decent sized room. But it's John Barrowman. So, you know, John's got a very devout following. That and his panels are apparently quite entertaining. So I was kind of sad that we missed it. Apparently, One of my friends, who is a cosplay photographer, was actually working for the con shooting stuff, just official con photos. And apparently he was shooting John's panel because we actually ran into him. He was in the room when I got there for Ray Park, but he was at one end of the room, I was at the other, and he was shooting, so I wasn't going to interrupt him, and then he left. So then we got kicked out. When they cleared the room, we were like, we went and found a corner, and I plugged my phone in, because of course, I was trying to post stuff on Instagram, but the cell phone reception at the convention center was awful. So I ended up killing a lot of battery just trying to, post stuff. So we just went and found an outlet and drank some water and kind of chilled and, let the muscles relax from standing in line and that sort of thing. And then we went back down to the floor, to walk up the aisles that we had been and see all the booths we hadn't seen yet. And we happened across Wes. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna go shoot the John Barrowman panel right now. I'm like, okay, cool, have fun. But I have to get the full story from him when I see him again. But apparently John threw him off the stage. He was shooting. I mean, he was doing his job. He was doing his job. It was jokingly done, lovingly done. Apparently he and John took a photo together afterwards. But apparently Wes got kicked out off the stage during John's panel. So I'll have to get the full story from him later. But it wasn't anything mean or anything. It was just, I'm sure it was one of those, like, if you're not going to shoot my good side, don't shoot at all, probably one of the things, knowing John. So...
I really didn't dress up for the occasion.
Yeah, exactly. So we went back to the floor. We wandered, saw the rest of the booths that we hadn't seen. We saw a few vendors that we had seen at other conventions, as it happens. I saw some cosplayers I knew from other conventions as well. We didn't buy anything, so our wallets are happy for that. The line just to get an autograph from Stan Lee was stupid long and stayed stupid long all day. So as much as I would have loved to get an autograph from Stan Lee, I'm glad we decided not to, because I would have hated to spend my entire convention in that line. That really would have sucked. A lot. So it is what it is. I got the photo. It's all good. And then we went back upstairs for the cosplay contest. Because for me, that's always one of the highlights of going to a convention, is getting to see the cosplay contest. Unfortunately, with a lot of cons, if they're of decent size, I always end up sitting on the wrong side of the stage, because the contestants will come up one side of the stage and go the other. I'm usually on if to get halfway decent photos, really you want to be on the side of the stage where they're going to exit, so you can see them coming up on the stage, shoot them on the stage, and then also once they get off the stage, usually I'm where they get on the stage, so I just get the back sides of a lot of cosplayers. So we walked in the room for the cosplay contest, and actually Wes was in there going to be shooting, and I'm like, Wes, which way are they going? He's like, they're going to come from that way, come this way, I'm going to shoot them, and I'm going to send them up that aisle. I'm like, great, so I got a seat right at the edge of that aisle. He was going to send them up. I'm like, good to know someone this time. So really good cosplays. They did a kids category. They did props. Then they did amateurs, journeyman, which are kind of like you're not quite a beginner, but you're not quite a pro. and then your masters, which are like your professional cosplayers, you know, the ones that do everything by hand, you know, have won contests before, that sort of thing. Kids, always adorable. You know, whether they're teeny tiny and their, you know, parent is helping them with the stage. There was this little girl dressed as the Dalek princess. She was so cute. She was so adorable. She had a little plunger and everything. Little kid-sized plunger. She was so adorable. Yeah. So there was a working R2-D2 won Best Prop, which rightfully so. He's remote controlled. But I mean, he rolled and he beeped and everything, so that was really cool. And then I don't remember who won the novice or the amateur or the journeyman. I'll have to look at my photos and video and all that. But the masters, I actually got a picture of the guy earlier in the day. It was a guy who dressed as Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy. It was really, really well done. I mean, he's got like the coat and all the leather, and he's got Yondu's like little, you know, the arrows that he controls whistling and all that. He had the blue, you know, he painted himself and had all the detail on Yondu's face, because Yondu's got all like these veins that are almost like tattoos. And he had the fin, but he's got Yondu's new fin. I don't know if people have seen pictures of Michael Rooker from, I think, San Diego Comic Con, where he showed up all dressed up. But Yondu's got this new fin on his head that's like super huge. And it even lights up. So, and the guy had it so that it lit up. So it was really cool. So I was happy to see a Marvel cosplay win. So, and then really that was it. I mean, the day actually went fairly quickly. We did not get to do a whole lot just because we spent a lot of time in line. But between the Stan Lee photo and waiting for John Barrowman, that got most of the day, actually. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, not bad, considering they were two of the biggest names there. There were several Star Wars folks there, obviously. Billy D. Williams, Ray Park, David Prowse was there.
Cool.
Yeah. And so was, Peter Mayhew. I couldn't think of his name for a second. Chewbacca, yes. And a couple of other Star Wars actors whose names I don't remember at the moment. And then of course, you know, the what's his face from Gotham, and then the guy from Flash. There was someone else from some show. I can't think of who it is right now. And Lee Merriweather, actually, Catwoman from the original Batman TV series. So it was an interesting collection of celebrity guests for Cincy. But overall, not bad. It was weird driving that far just for a day at a convention. Usually if I'm going to go like out of town that far, you know, I'm not going to go just for the day. I'm going to go for like the entire weekend. And that means getting a hotel room and that sort of thing. But, you know, it's like we really just wanted to go for Stan Lee. It's like we didn't need to be there for the entire weekend. But at the same time, I kind of wish I'd had more time to, you know, talk to like some of the artists in Artist Alley and talk to some of the vendors. There were lots of cosplayers where, you know, I would see like a cosplayer as I'm going through the dealer hall and I'd be like, oh, I want to get a picture of that. But it's like, no, I got to get to, you know, it's like Chauncey's waiting, you know, it's like I got to get to the panel room. So, Yeah, that kind of bit that it, I didn't have as much time to do and see as much as I normally do at conventions. I don't know if it's necessarily a con I would go back to just for the sake of going to. It'll probably be one of those that I'll keep an eye on. And if they get a guest that I really, really, really want to meet, and it's not a guest that's likely to come any closer to me or come to, not come to Indianapolis anytime soon, then I would probably go. But yeah, I don't think I'd go out of my way to go just for the sake of going. Not when I have other cons that are, right down the street from where I work, where I can do that if I want to, or, like the one in Bloomington, or, ones in Kokomo and that sort of thing, where, I can go on a whim and just go to hang out, that sort of thing. But I met Stan Lee. At the end of the day, I got to meet Stan Lee. And John Barrowman, too. And I got a Tim Tam from John Barrowman. And a hug. And a handshake. So.
And he answers your phone.
Yeah, and he held my phone. And I've got selfies of me and John Barrowman on my phone. It's now my profile picture on Facebook. It's awesome! So, totally worth getting up and driving and spending all day and then driving home for Stan Lee. I don't think I'd do that for anyone else. It depends on who it is. Yeah. You get some Marvel territory, maybe, probably. Like a Clark Gregg. I may do that for Clark Gregg. If they ever get him. So, anyway. Speaking of Clark Gregg. Nice segue there. Speaking of Marvel and comic books, our main topic for this week, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is back with Ghost Rider, and oh my god, it's so good! I'd be talking to people like the other Marvel cosplayers, and they're like, what do you think of Ghost Rider? I'm like, oh my god, it's so good. They're like, I know, right? So, talk about yeah, I don't even know what to say to describe the, coming straight out of the gate with some explosive, pun intended, fiery, pun intended, TV. Yeah. So it picks up right there with the 6-month jump that we saw at the end of last season. They did that 6-month jump. And at least as far as season 1 is concerned, they're picking up right where that left off. So it's 6 months later. Whether they decide to go and show anything from those 6 months later has yet to be determined. They might not. I guess it depends on whether it's important to the storyline or not. But they brought. Ghost Rider, I never saw the Nicolas Cage movie. I have no plans to see the Nicolas Cage movie. I don't need that as a reference. I think
I saw it once years ago, but I've forgotten.
That's probably a good thing. If you forgot, it's probably a good thing.
I have the image of the motorcycle, but that's about it.
Yeah, which that's what most people, think of when they think of Ghost Rider. Even from the comics, Ghost Rider rides a motorcycle. He doesn't on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He drives a car. It is a awesome car. It's blacker than black with the chrome. The bit, because the episode opened with Daisy hunting down these guys that are working. They're white supremacists for one thing. for one thing. But they're also like, also members of the Watchdogs, because the Watchdogs are kind of the thing now that Hydra is pretty, Hydra I don't think ever necessarily will ever go away completely, but it's been neutralized enough. We're not concerned about Hydra right now. We have other things to be concerned about, like the Watchdogs and, these people that are wanting to cause a ruckus in general and also, against Inhumans. So we have Daisy in Los Angeles going after these guys that hijacked a semi-truck. They're supposedly carrying weapons of some sort. But apparently those have already been marked by the Ghost Rider. So Ghost Rider's coming after them, and Daisy's like interrogating. She stops. She hunts them down. She stops and she's interrogating them. They're like, we got to get out of here before he gets to us. And she's like, what the heck are you talking about? And then the car appears. And one of the guys shoots like a grenade launcher. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to do anything, dude. Sorry. And he shoots it, and the car goes flying. And as it's flying through the air, like the Ghost Rider ability takes over. So the car bursts into flames, but not because the grenade launcher did anything. It's because the Ghost Rider persona is taking over. And so it's catches on fire as it's flipping through the air and then lands on the ground, and it's like, oh my god! It was so cool. We kind of get a glimpse of Ghost Rider himself, but not really. And then later, after Daisy does some hunting, and she hunts down the junkyard that she thinks the car is at, and she ends up encountering Robbie, and we get a close-up of Robbie turning into Ghost Rider, and that effect, wow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For a TV show with a TV budget, that is some really good special effects. So, and we're probably not likely to see that exact effect with that much detail again. That's one of those effects that you really only need to show it once to get your point across. And then from here on out, they can do, like him turning into Ghost Rider, from a distance or off screen or that sort of thing without all that heavy detail, to help, save both your budget and your folks doing your special effects hours of work. Yeah, because I'm sure they like to sleep and see their families at some point. As cool as it would be to be working on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and, with the Ghost Rider character, families have lives. Marvel TV employees have lives.
Just me, or did the Ghost Rider's jacket kind of look a little bit like the Punisher's with that white stripe kind of?
It does, and there's speculation that the Punisher may make an appearance.
That's what I was
on
seeing.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's a rumor it was started because there was a preview of the season premiere of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. At was it San Diego? I think it was San Diego. And it just so happened that there was a guy. It was Jed Whedon was there, obviously, because it's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is his thing. But there were also some other special guests there, and one of them happened to be, and I can't think of his name. I'll have to find the article I read, but he is the creator of the Punisher. And I guess at this presentation or whatever, I don't think it was Jed, I think it was someone else, said that there's a reason that all of these special guests are here, and you'll find out why later. And then there was apparently, I guess at New York Comic Con coming up, they've said that the guy currently playing the Punisher on Netflix is only going to be able to come to New York Comic Con for part of the con because he's filming. And most people are assuming he's filming the Punisher series, which is going to be on Netflix. But now people are like, between the thing with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing and now him, his people saying, well, he's busy filming, so he can't be at the con the entire weekend. People are taking those two together and smushing it. And now it's become this rumor that the Punisher is going to be on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which would be awesome. Geographically, it doesn't make sense because for right now, Daisy and Ghost Rider in Los Angeles, Punisher's over in New York, in Hell's Kitchen and all that with Daredevil and all that fun stuff. So they'd have to come up with a really good reason for one or the other to travel to their respective cities that they're currently located in. But I guess time will tell at this point whether that rumor, it's not really anything that anyone said very specifically. It's just comments people are taking and interpreting it as they will. But yeah, I thought of the same thing with Robbie with his jacket, the black jacket with the white on it. I'm like, that's a bit Punisher-esque. So.
Okay, so it just wasn't me.
No, it wasn't just you. So.
I'm just like, wait a minute, which, I'm not watching Daredevil season 2.
No.
Well, just with the way it started, I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, you really right. Yes, I mean, as soon as that episode started, especially once Ghost Rider showed up in that opening scene, I was like, yeah, this is why Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. got moved to 10 o'clock. It's dark and it is violent. It's still not as extreme as the Netflix series.
Yeah.
But it's getting there. It is dark. I mean, it's not anything that bothers me. And based on what I've seen from like reviews and articles I read, most people are quite happy with it, with the tone, and very happy with Ghost Rider. So that is very good. And apparently Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s ratings were actually quite good for the season opener. So let's hope that sticks, please. But yeah, I mean, obviously Ghost Rider is like the thing for this season. But there is other stuff going on surrounding that may or may not. It's all connected. I say may or may not, come together eventually. It will come together eventually. What am I talking about? This is Marvel.
Everything's connected.
Yes, everything is connected. It's sad seeing the team broken up. I miss Coulson and crew hanging out on the plane or at the base or whatever. To see them all broken up now is not. It makes my heart hurt a little.
Yes.
Daisy's off doing her thing. She'll eventually come back. Their paths are gonna have to cross. Whether she comes back to S.H.I.E.L.D. and the team is yet to be determined, but she cannot be separated from Coulson and all that for very long, especially now that they know where she is, and it's likely she's going to stay in Los Angeles. And
Yo-Yo feeding her information too.
Yeah.
That was kind of
yeah.
That was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love Yo-Yo.
Yes.
She was enjoying herself a lot being reunited with Mac.
Mm-hmm.
That Yo-Yo ships Yo-Yo and Mac.
Yes, she does.
That is a ship that she wants sailing like yesterday.
Yeah. And woe betide those who try to get in the way of the sailing of that ship.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I love that. Yo-Yo is just like, and of course Mac's all like, the rules against fraternization, and she's like, so.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't care. Yo-Yo is macking on Mac and she ain't gonna stop.
Rule book? I know of no rule book.
Yeah, exactly.
She's kind of like the doctor with the TARDIS manual.
Yeah, like, I'm throwing this into a supernova. Bye. Yeah. Yeah. Even with this darker tone, it's still got, those moments, those one-liners that, that help keep it from getting so depressing. Something that Arrow should take note of. Anyway, we'll talk about that when we get around talking Arrow again. So Yo-Yo is living in Los Angeles as well. I guess more as as an asset, not as an actual SHIELD agent, because she signed on to the Sokovia Accords. She signed them. But she and Daisy are working together on the DL. Coulson and Mac are working together still. Coulson is obviously not director anymore, which obvious, it should be pretty obvious why they have. I don't think they've actually spelled it. I don't think they actually spelled it out in this particular episode. They probably will with the next one, because we'll actually see the new director in episode 2. But essentially the idea is, after the events of Civil War and the inaction of the Sokovia Accords, SHIELD itself as an organization has become legitimized again, and is now no longer working in the shadows. It's not an open organization, but it's not a secret organization so much anymore. But because the world thinks Phil Coulson is dead, he can't be director. And so they had to have someone else become director of SHIELD. Someone probably picked by the president, probably with Talbot's influence. I imagine it won't be too long before we see Talbot again, probably, maybe. They haven't said anything about him making an appearance, but I wouldn't put it past Talbot to put his mustached face on our screens again sometime soon. They did announce who is playing the director, which unfortunately I don't have his name in front of me. Apparently he voiced Batman in like one of the cartoon movies. So apparently the new director of SHIELD is Batman. In a roundabout way. But they haven't said what his character's name is. The only thing they've hinted at is apparently he is a deep cut from the Captain America comics. So they're probably going to say who he is in the next episode, like finally drop his name, and I'm going to be like, who? Yeah. To the Google, like, I don't read the comics, I don't know who this is. There's going to be a lot of Googling going on Tuesday. But apparently the director is not so, whoever this new director of SHIELD is, he's not just some random person. He's from the comics. But who it is, we don't know yet, because they like to have surprises. They like to do those sorts of things to us. Yep. Yeah. But apparently the new director really likes colors.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That whole conversation between May and
color.
Between May and Simmons are like, well, why are you orange and why am I, this color? And Simmons are like, well, I'm a combination of red and yellow. Or red, yeah. Like, what? Hopefully that'll get explained, at some point. But at this point, apparently Simmons, in some instances, outranks May, which May is not happy about.
No. Oh, not at all.
I mean, May is, I don't think, I kind of, when they did the 6-month thing, and, they essentially spelled out that, Coulson was not director anymore, but they didn't say who the new director was. I was kind of hoping it would be May, but at the same time, I'm like, no, May doesn't actually want to be in charge. Mm-mm. She'd rather be out kicking butt than doing paperwork. So it's not so much that May, wants to be at the top of the food chain, but at the same time, she doesn't like the fact that, I think it's more she's been with S.H.I.E.L.D. for so long, and Simmons is so much younger and doesn't have a lot of field experience. Why does Simmons essentially outrank her? So it's kind of a kick to May's ego, I think, more than anything. I didn't necessarily like how they were trying to maybe insinuate that Simmons maybe was being more loyal to the director than her old team. Thankfully, they fixed that really early on. Obviously Simmons is going to be, in general, by the rules, by the book. But at the same time, she does care about Coulson and everyone else. And by being close to the director, that gives her an advantage to keeping her friends safe, potentially. So, go Simmons. Simmons of season 1 would so not have the guts to do something like that, or have the confidence in herself. So I think that shows a lot of how much Simmons has grown in the last 3 seasons. Yeah. I'm liking May's new crew, though. I'm hoping some of them stick around and they're not like red shirts and get killed off at some point.
Yeah, or she scares them away.
Yeah, she scares them away. And then there's Fitz.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Fitz.
Poor.
Yeah. What do we think of this project that Radcliffe has going with that? I'm just getting visions from Iron Man 2 with all the war machines. I'm just like, yeah, you're going to be sent in as a clone to play cleanup to protect everybody else. Yeah, I can see this ending real well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's what just came to my mind when she said that.
Yeah. It really depends on which way they decide to take the whole life model decoy thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, the obvious thing is, Ultron, which they even name dropped Ultron. Mm-hmm. That was even Fitz's first concern was, Ultron, we do not need another Ultron incident.
That too.
Terminator, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is not Skynet, hopefully.
Yeah.
I would,
or another pal.
Yeah, I would hope that that's not the way they're going, because I think it's too obvious and too easy, because we've already done that with Age of Ultron and Iron Man 2, essentially, and pretty much every other TV and or movie that uses artificial intelligent robots. It's a trope, and I don't think it needs to be done again. What I think they may do is, I don't think Ada won't necessarily be nefarious and end up becoming a bad guy. I actually think maybe they may take her and get her to the point where we forget that she's not human, and do something with her that will have an impact on the team. Because, I mean, even, right away, heard Fitz's introduction, all Fitz saw was a naked woman.
Yeah.
Even after he found out she's not actually a human being, all he saw was, what he saw before she put on a rope. Mm-hmm. Poor Fitz.
Yep.
So, I think if maybe they take her more of the integrate her, they may go the route where, Fitz and Radcliffe work together to the point where they, like Fitz said, she's perfect, and then maybe introduce her to the S.H.I.E.L.D. but not tell her that she's not a person. and see if she can integrate into the team without them realizing that she's not a human being. And allow her to do her duty, but then, you know, if something's going to happen and she may have to potentially sacrifice herself and may end up in the process maybe proving a point, or Radcliffe's point, that a life model decoy is just as good as a person, but is more expendable. But at the same time, they can integrate into a S.H.I.E.L.D. team just as well as another person. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, it would be. I mean, it's a bit more convoluted, but it would definitely be a different way of taking the artificial intelligence thing than she becoming the bad guy. Because I don't think we need another bad guy.
No, yeah, that's quite a few.
No, I'm just speculating here. At this point, the other speculation is, that she's not the only life model decoy. That she's the one that we know Radcliffe has made. He may make more, or he's already made more that we haven't seen yet. And they may pull a bait and switch on us, and someone else on Team S.H.I.E.L.D. will get replaced as a life model decoy, and we don't know it yet until something happens to them. Because that's something they did in the comic books. At one point in the comic books, Nick Fury had like a crap ton of life model decoys and would send those out for like dangerous missions and all that. So that if they got killed, the real Nick Fury was just fine.
That sounds like something he would do.
Yeah. Potentially. So that may be something they may do on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well, that if it hasn't happened already, at some point someone could get replaced with their life model decoy and we don't realize it until something happens, and then we realize that that person that just got injured and or potentially killed is not the flesh and blood version that we thought they were, potentially. So.
Well, I mean, for full impact, they'd probably actually have it be a situation where the person would have died.
Yes.
I don't think they'd just go for injured because they'd want maximum impact.
Yes.
Character death, and then we find out that the character is not really dead. It was a life model decoy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess this is one of those things we may have to keep in the back of our head as we're watching, especially when our all our lovelies get into dangerous situations, especially really dangerous situations.
They're going to do it when we least expect it, no matter how.
Oh yeah, they will, because that's the way that they like to do it on, this show.
They're going to lull us into a false sense of security by probably not talking about the whole life model decoy thing too much, and then towards the end of the season, when we're least expecting it, bam, they're gonna bring it.
It'll be like the season finale, and we have to wait until next year.
Probably.
Oh no!
I hope they don't do that to us.
Remember, this is the Whedon family tree we're talking about.
I know.
In control of this production.
I know. Yeah, that's the thing. It's you introduce the ability to potentially replicate another person. That's just opening up so many realms of possibility for Mr. Whedon to totally just mess with us and break our hearts potentially, and yeah. Oh, anyway. Oh, the possibilities. Oh, yeah. Oh. And another craziness, as if, life model decoys wasn't mad enough, and then a guy who's, turns into a flaming skull. We have this ghost thing that's on the loose now that we don't know what it is or what it might be, that apparently once it gets a hold of people, it makes them go nuts and kill each other.
Sounds bad.
Yeah. It actually reminds me a bit of Enchantress from Suicide Squad. Kind of a similar idea where she's this mystical spirit that's not one to be messed with, because she could totally mess with your head and cause some very bad things. I know there's one review. It was a video I watched on YouTube, and he said that I'll link to it in the show notes. That he said that if you read the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider comics, because this version of Ghost Rider is straight from the comics, and not just straight from the comics, straight from current comics. Unlike, with some other things, we'll do like deep cuts from like comics from way back. Like, he's Ghost Rider like now on the shelves, or on the shelves recently. So if you read his storyline, potentially whatever this spirit thing is, another spirit very similar to Ghost Rider, if not another Ghost Rider. Apparently there's the potential for multiple Ghost Riders, multiple spirits of Ghost Rider. So I don't read the comics. I guess if you want to go online or whatever, and read them, just know that, this is TV. So while they do pull from the comics, they do like to divert, somewhat, but because it is, current, it may give you an idea of where they might potentially go with the storyline for this season. Which I'm intrigued, but at the same time, like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Yeah,
I don't want to know.
I want to know, but I don't want to know until they show
Yeah. So, but, just in general with Ghost Rider and this other, spirit thing that apparently is potentially maybe gotten to Melinda, which...
Okay, that was...
Yeah. It was... When she looked at Phil and his face turned into something like out of the Blair Witch Project, I'm like, okay, for a second. But, just realize that, at this point, Marvel is heading in a direction that is going to get more metaphysical, more not of this world, not of this dimension. It's like they, said in Thor, I think it was in Thor, it's like magic is just, science that hasn't been explained yet. So, they can come up with scientific explanations, although I think with Ghost Rider, nobody wants a scientific explanation for Ghost Rider. That would just ruin it, I think. But, with, especially with Doctor Strange coming out soon, as scary as that is. I mean, it's almost October, which means we're like a little over a month away from Doctor Strange dropping, which is awesome. But with Doctor Strange and leading into Infinity War and things with the Infinity Gauntlet and the stones and all that, Marvel has to get into that magic, multi-dimensional, things not of this world idea. Otherwise, when we get to Infinity War, it's just not going to make sense. It's not going to make a lick of sense. They started to lay that groundwork a little bit, actually all the way back in Age of Ultron with well, even Guardians of the Galaxy, actually, back with first Guardians of the Galaxy, with the first time they, really dropped the word Infinity Stone, and they gave, the collector gave that explanation of where the stones came from and what their abilities are, and then with Ultron, with that stone, and they've started to do that in, so we'll and a little bit in Ant-Man, with the Scott going, the shrinking, it's almost an interdimensional thing, which kind of helps lay the groundwork for Doctor Strange, where the ability to do very Inception type stuff, and Thor Ragnarok, I think, will do the same thing with the obviously with Loki and his abilities, but then also these other characters they're bringing in, and then they're kind of doing that in Netflix as well. I know I discussed this a little bit when we were talking San Diego Comic-Con, when they dropped all those trailers for the Netflix series and all that they've started to get into that metaphysical thing with Daredevil season 2, with the hand, and this spirit or whatever entity thing that's potentially Elektra is going to now be, so that's where Marvel is headed. Just so by the time we get to Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet and all the stones and crazy magic sort of things, it'll be a lot easier, I think, for people to absorb and be like, oh, okay, it's just science that hasn't been explained yet. Giant purple dude with a giant gold glove with some shiny stones. Got it. Good. But I don't know about you guys, but I'm loving it. Obviously I'm a big Marvel fan. I wave that banner very proudly. But, obviously where I'm coming from as far as Marvel is concerned, I don't have a lot of knowledge as far as the comics are concerned. Everything I know has come from TV and or the movies for the most part. But what I see and what I understand, I enjoy. If they do something I don't like, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to let them, I'm not going to praise them no matter what. I've, as we've discussed these shows and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter and the movies and all that, I'm not one to hold back when they do something I don't like. But for right now, I'm really happy. And I hope you guys are too.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I'm excited to see where this goes, but hopefully sooner rather than later we'll get the team back together, because I miss the team.
Yes.
Together. I need my babies all under one roof.
As much as it was nice seeing Coulson and Mac, they all need to get together.
Yeah.
Playing backgammon, that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. It is nice. Yeah, I don't like the fact, I don't like why they're broken up, but at the same time, it's kind of nice that they are broken up and we get teams, pairings that we don't normally get. It's kind of like the last Star Trek, where we get pairings together that we don't normally get. It's not Kirk and Spock. It was Spock and Bones. In this case, we got Coulson and Mac. It's May and Simmons.
Coulson, and Coulson warning Mac, stay away from Lola.
Yeah. We'll see Lola eventually. She's there.
Yeah.
So she will make an appearance at some point. She is there. She is on set. Clark Gregg did post a picture of her. So she is there.
Where Coulson goes, Lola follows.
Exactly. Exactly.
End point.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. All things considering, not a like super stressful season opener, unlike some season openers we've had in the past, especially like last year with Simmons being sucked into the monolith and all that. So like we were all like, oh my god. This season not so much, but it was heart pounding, adrenaline pumping, but more in a oh my god, this is super cool kind of way, not oh my god, what are you doing to our babies? Stop hurting them kind of way. Oh. Yeah. It's here. It's on. Watch it Tuesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're in Canada, apparently you get to watch it sooner.
Lucky.
So Mitch has to keep her mouth shut until the rest of us get to watch it on Tuesdays. And be prepared for just madness. They have said that, the tie-in for Doctor Strange is going to be a bit more complex than like just an obvious like drop or whatever for some of the previous Marvel movies, like, Thor Dark World, where it's, Thor Dark World and then Coulson and crew cleaning up after the incident. So, yeah. With this introduction of these particular characters, Ghost Rider and all that, it's going to be, we're still not going to get that major crossover that I know I desperately want. But I think we're getting closer. I think as each season moves on and as the MCU movies move on and with the Netflix series, that I'm still holding out hope that we're going to get that, a really massive Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. MCU crossover at some point. It has to happen. I don't see how they can just keep going and not have it happen. Whether they need to bring in, Punisher first and do, Netflix TV crossover first, sure, why not? I'd be all for that too. Or they just want to bring in Claire Temple. She quit her job at the hospital. She's got some free time. She's gonna be on Luke Cage, so she's just making the rounds. So maybe it's only a matter of time before Claire pops up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Great, someone call up Rosario Dawson. Hey, what you doing? You want to be on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Sure. Yeah. I'd be all for that, though. I think it would be easier for them to do a Netflix crossover. I think timing would probably be easier. Now, whether it's Punisher or if someone else is yet to be determined, but yeah, especially now that they're getting closer in tone. So. Any hoozles. I met Stanley. Full circle there. I met Stanley. We have him to thank for all of this madness. Or at least a good chunk of it. So. Anyway. Anything else? Comments, concerns, speculation?
That I can think of. Looking forward to the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Me too.
My chair is ready to be gripped, white knuckle. Awesome. All right. Well, dear listeners, if you have anything to say about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Marvel in general, or anything else we've talked about, or will talk about, or want to talk about, you can send us feedback. The easiest way to do that is to go to our blog, which is the Five-ish Fangirls podcast.blogspot.com. From there's a nice little contact us So you can send us a message, or feel free to send us a message on Facebook, DM us on Twitter if you wish, that sort of thing. We're on lots of the social medias. You can see what few pictures I managed to post on Instagram from Cincinnati. There's like one corner in the building where I could get like 4 bars. So when I was in that corner, I took advantage. A lot of dead spots in that building. So although Chauncey didn't have a problem, so it may just be my phone, actually. My phone's old. I need a new phone. And I will have more pictures that I took with my actual camera, mostly from the cosplay contest. I will post those on our Facebook page, so you can see those. I have video as well. I will get around to editing that and put that up on our YouTube channel at some point this week, so stay tuned for that. So I'm gonna be riding the Stanley high for a while. I can just see it now. So love it. No. And that's about it, I think. Unless anyone has anything else. Well, other shows are coming back. We missed Once Upon a Time, unfortunately, because we were recording, but that's okay. That's what.
Yeah, it just ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the internet is for. So.
Yeah, and on demand.
Yep, exactly. We shall be discussing Once Upon a Time.
I got caught up on the shows that I missed, like the premieres I missed last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
because I was gonna watch them on the air, like I want to see if they're on demand first, so I can maybe watch them on the big screen instead of my little laptop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bigger screen is always better.
I watched them and it was good.
Good.
And I caught up, and now I'm behind again. Because I
pretty much how it goes.
Yep.
Because we're recording.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much the way it is. We're all excited when our shows come back, and then it's a lot of falling behind and then catching up.
Shows were coming back.
Yeah.
The only one that I watched when it that I didn't miss was This Is Us, and that's because I had the TV tracker app on my phone, on my iPod, that alerted me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's starting soon, so I was able to catch that one. But the other ones, I'm like, oops. But yeah. I got caught up on them, and they're in my calendar now, so that won't happen again.
You know you're a fangirl when you've got to schedule stuff on your calendar.
This show's on at this time, and I got 2 shows that are on at the same time, so I'm gonna have to pick which one I watch.
Exactly.
And which one I pick up later.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which one do I watch live?
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, fortunately, I don't have much of this TV season. I've got a couple overlaps. I think 1 or 2 where I have times where I have 2 shows on at the same time. So I'll have to figure that out. But most of my shows are one after the other. Because I got as of October 3rd, I will have 3 shows in a row that I will be watching. So that will be fun, I guess.
Oh, first world fangirl problems.
Mm-hmm. But we love them.
We do. We love it. So we now that our shows are back, we've got plenty to talk about, so be prepared, our dear listeners. Mm-hmm. We had nice things to say this week about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We'll see next episode when we talk Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
We may not be as nice.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to be cautiously optimistic with Once Upon a Time, but we'll see. So. Anyway, that's for next time. So, I think for now we will sign off for this week.
This is Brittany and Belka saying goodnight. This is Audrey saying good evening.
This is Mitch saying goodnight from Kitchener, Ontario.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. You want tech like this? You get your arm cut off. Been listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. Any and all movies, books, games, and other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by their respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied.